Welcome. You're tuned to the Urban Affairs program. It's time to get up for Urban Perspectives with your host, Pete Rhodes.
Welcome. You're watching Urban Perspectives, sponsored by BMAnetworks.com. I'm your host, Pete Rhodes. On this episode, I will talk with the Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer for the CBS Corporation, and we'll welcome the National Association of Black Journalists 40th Annual Convention to the Twin Cities with a discussion on the conference programs and the advocacy they have to increase the number of multicultural professionals in newsrooms across the country. Thank you for joining us here on Urban Perspectives. My first guest oversees the multi-dimensional inclusion strategies for CBS Corporations as its Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer. Her mission is to strengthen diversity across the corporation, from talent to suppliers, group engagement, and advocacy. She has a BA from the Harvard College and a JD from the University of California at Berkeley. Among her honors, she has been recognized by Black Enterprise as a top executive in corporate diversity. Here's a look at Josie Thomas.
At CBS, we have a multifaceted approach to diversity. We look at diversity as an operational responsibility, as a business goal, and as an important part of the culture of the company. Diversity makes business sense.
And Josie, thank you for joining us here on Urban Perspectives. And as Executive Vice President, I think I introduced you as Senior Vice President. We appreciate you being here today for us on Urban Perspectives.
Thanks, Pete. It's really a joy to be home.
Yeah.
Minneapolis is my home, so thanks for inviting me.
We had your mom on not too long ago, and she is just a delight to be with us.
She's fantastic.
Talk to us a little bit, as one of the highest ranking African Americans in television today. Have you seen the opportunities increase for African Americans and others of color in this industry since you've been a part of it? Absolutely.
There's been a significant increase, I think, in awareness, which is very important, and prioritizing, recognizing that if you're going to be in a business environment, if you're going to be successful in business, you need to reflect your audience. And so with a changing demographic, I think the business people across the industry realize that it's important to reflect that in front of and behind the camera.
Speaking of which, you helped create the CBS Diversity Institute. Talk to us a little bit about what it is and its purpose.
Yes. The Diversity Institute, really, I call it being your aunt or uncle in the business. Okay. It's about access and networking. The talent is out there. We know that the talent exists, both, again, in front of and behind the camera. What we wanted to create is an opportunity for emerging diverse voices to get in front of the decision makers, because that's where they need to be in order to get the opportunities that they deserve.
Now, of course, we're taking a look at the NABJ 40th Annual Convention here in the Twin Cities. What is your part in the organization, and what do you think, how important is this organization? It's done a lot of stuff over 40 years. How important has it been?
It's been incredibly important. We've been supporters of NABJ for many, many years. It's an opportunity, again, for emerging journalists to get in front of decision makers at these conventions. It's a career development opportunity. The organization provides career development and information gathering, and all of those things are critical for a young journalist's development.
For sure. We've seen a lot of them over the last few days, and it has been fantastic to see the next generation of great reporters and anchors and so on. It's just been fantastic. When we look at that, what inspired you in your career to take on inclusion and diversity throughout your career?
Yeah, well, it was an interesting shift for me, quite honestly. I'm a lawyer by training, and I decided that at the end of the day, I wanted to leave a legacy. I've been at CBS a long time, and so when this opportunity arose, I said, let me see how I can have a long-term impact on CBS and its culture and the industry generally. So for me, that was really, and diversity and inclusion has always been an integral part of my upbringing and my approach, and from my mother and everybody that's been near and dear to me. So it was really an easy move for me in terms of my career development, but also an important one in terms of legacy.
Yeah, speaking of which, as well, as an expert in the industry, what advice would you give, Josie, to companies and corporations that would kind of let them know that inclusion and diversity will set them on a path to success as well?
Right. The argument, and it's really not an argument, it's just a position, it's just a fact. Is what I say to businesses always is, unless you have the most diverse and inclusive voices in the room, you will not reach the right business decision. You need to have everybody in the room in order to come out on top and to be flexible and to adjust to a changing business environment.
Yeah. So how did you get the chance to get involved in TV as well? You said you started out as an attorney for CBS, but you chose television as your entry.
Well, I mean, the television part of our business is a significant one, obviously. I am the Chief Diversity Officer for the corporation as a whole, which includes Showtime and Simon & Schuster and a number of radio stations and television stations and sports and news and entertainment. And there's diversity champions across the company who are also engaged in this conversation. But you know, media is an important business. It impacts perceptions, and it also provides very valuable information to communities. And so I feel that the media business is the way to go. Yeah,
because we have quite a few individuals, young individuals, that are watching the program. What advice would you give them as you also are involved in selecting the talent in some of the programming? What advice would you give them?
Well, I always say to anybody who's interested in doing anything, you have to be the absolute best. You have to do whatever you can do to hone your craft, whatever that craft might be, and to take advantage of every single networking opportunity that you come across, and to really gain information from your elders or others who preceded you in any given field. So the most important thing is to be ready, so that when the opportunity comes up, you're prepared to take advantage of it. So that's what I would encourage young people to do.
Great. Well, we appreciate you and the work that you've been doing and the role model that you're providing for us and young people who are coming into the industry, and want to just say, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Keep coming back home. We appreciate having you here. I'm sure your mom does as well.
Yes.
Josie Thomas, we appreciate you, Executive Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer with CBS Corporation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Up next, we'll discuss the NABJ mission and conference highlights with the President and Convention Chair of the National Association of Black Journalists. Meet Bob Butler and Rob Hicks when we return on Urban Perspectives. Welcome back to Urban Perspectives. It's my honor to have with me the president of the National Association of Black Journalists, Bob Butler. Currently a reporter for CBS Radio in San Francisco, he has over 3 decades of award-winning broadcast and leadership experience to his credit. His mission is to get more young people of color interested in broadcasting careers. Joining him is Rod Hicks, the East Desk Editor at Associated Press for Philadelphia's East Region, which manages news coverage in 10 states. As a long-standing member and seasoned industry professional, he is the NABJ's 40th anniversary convention chair. Welcome, gentlemen, to Urban Perspectives.
Thanks for having us.
We really appreciate you, selecting our city to be here. And it's just fantastic seeing all the young people and all the others from around the country be here in the Twin Cities. So thank you guys so very much for making that final choice for the Twin Cities.
Well, yeah, when Prince asks you to come, it's kind of hard to say no.
Exactly. But I will start.
I thought we're only true.
Well, thank you so much. We want to start with you as president of the NABJ. I'd like to ask you, what inspired your illustrious career in the industry, and how has the organization, you think, over the years helped to strengthen multiculturalism in the industry?
Well, I wanted to be actually a disc jockey on the radio.
Okay.
So when I went to college, the first chance they gave me to get on the air was in doing news, and I liked it. I stayed in it. I joined NABJ about 15, 16 years ago when I didn't know about it. I worked in a newsroom that did not have, I think I was one of 2 African Americans in the newsroom. And when I found out about it, it's like I went to my first convention and it was like, oh yeah, I haven't missed one since. Yeah. I learned that there is a lack of diversity in the industry, not just on the air, but especially behind the scenes. And it was very important for me to try to change that. I started doing that as a reporter and editor at KCBS Radio, when I'd go out to my alma mater, San Francisco State, and I'd try to get more people interested in working in radio news, especially those people of color. That eventually led me to join CBS Corporate as diversity director. I did that for 18 months, and then I left that job and went back to the radio station, and then I joined the NABJ board around the same time. And I've been passionate about increasing, increasing the diversity and holding the industry accountable for poor coverage and things like that since then.
As we were doing research on you, we were astonished at all the photos that we saw of you with young people. So
the old folks don't like me. They don't want to take pictures with me.
Well, I'm sure Rod likes you.
I like Bob. He's a good guy most of the time.
What inspired you to get into the business yourself, and what can individuals expect? What are you trying to accomplish with the conventions as the convention chair?
Let me take that second question first. Our industry, as you know, is changing. When I entered the business over 20, 25 years ago, almost nothing is the way it is now. Digital media has taken over our industry. Things like social media, the way we deliver news, who our readers, listeners, and viewers are.
Yes.
All of that's changed. And so we have to change with that. We have to improve our skills so that and adjust our skills so we can adapt to the types of jobs that are out there. A lot of very few companies are strictly, one medium now. TV stations write stories. They have social media accounts. We're all doing the same thing now. We're all on the same platforms. And so people who used to just write stories, now they're taking video. And we just have to train everybody to do that. That's what the convention's about. It's really a convention to train our members to be prepared for the jobs as this industry changes.
I see. And you got involved how?
Well, I almost came in by mistake, but not exactly. I was always interested in journalism. I didn't know it as journalist. I just was interested in writing and interested in how the words looked on the page. But I thought that I wanted to go into business, or at least go work in marketing. In college, I majored in advertising with a minor in marketing.
I see.
But when I started looking for jobs, the jobs that listened to me were newspaper jobs.
Okay.
So I started out at a newspaper, and I've worked at 6 newspapers since that, and now I'm working for the Associated Press, which is a news service.
Yeah. Gentlemen, you both are working journalists, and as we look at the membership of the NABJ, and as we look at the images that sometimes are distorted in our communities, how important is it for these members and the organization to help create positive images for our communities on the various news desks and news organizations?
Well, I think rather than say create positive images, is to make sure the industry, when they do stories, they don't distort the community, and they do it a lot. Not as much now, because we try to be quick about calling them up and saying, wait a minute, you did the story, like there's one recently during the in Wimbledon about Serena Williams, and they basically say, well, she kind of looks like a man, and that's why she wins so much. Well, that was demeaning not only to women, but to African American women, because some of the labels that they have to endure. So we were quick to call people out on that, but it happens too many times. What happens is they'll do something stupid or say something stupid on the air, they'll apologize and think that makes it okay. Yeah. It's not okay to do that anymore.
So when we look at this industry and when we look at this convention here, what can people take away from it as members and attendees, in your opinion, Rod, as the chair?
Well, first of all, I hope that our members understand the value that they bring being journalists of color. And that is, when we tell stories of our communities, we need to tell stories, full stories, and we need to tell stories from all perspectives. Yeah. And it's important to have the viewpoints of people of color in your coverage. I think we all understand that. Well, I hope that we do. Yeah. But many of the leaders of news organizations seem to not understand that. Yeah. And we are trying to collectively bring that message to them through our convention.
You're doing a fantastic job. In the closing moment here, Bob, how did Twin Cities Black Journalists chapter help bring this to the Twin Cities, and is it a success in your opinion?
I think it's a success. I mean, we're here. We have more than 1,500 people registered when we got here. I think that number has grown by several hundred. Yeah. Our opening reception Wednesday night normally is kind of sparse because not everybody's there. I mean, it was packed. Yeah. And there was so much so many people we didn't have enough food. You know, it's crazy. Plus, we're going to have a great time the rest of the time we're here, and we're doing a community service project to help some veterans who need furniture, so that when we leave, they'll remember NABJ.
Well, gentlemen, fantastic job. Thank you again for being here and bringing this program to the Twin Cities, and we wish you all the best during your stay here in the Twin Cities.
Thank you so much.
All right, Bob Butler, Rod Hicks, thank you so very much. Founded in 1975, the National Association of Black Journalists is an organization of African American journalists, media professionals, and students. Next, meet one of the founding members and the 40th NABJ Minneapolis Convention Program Chair when we return on Urban Perspectives. My next guest has 5 decades in media as a broadcaster, television reporter, and producer. He's been recognized as the Man of the Year by Ebony Magazine and has played a pivotal role in bringing together 44 men and women to launch the NABJ in 1975. He's joined by the programming chair for the 40th NABJ convention. She's a strategic, shall I get it out there, communications manager for the Pennsylvania Convention Center, where she oversees public and media relation efforts for the largest economic generator in Pennsylvania. It's my honor to welcome Mr. Paul Brock and Deirdre Childress Hopkins to Urban Perspectives. How you folks doing?
We're great.
Thank you. You know, Mr. Brock, you remind me so much of, you've heard of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis?
Yep.
Jimmy Jam's dad and you could be cousins. If he sat right here today, you guys would look like you're related very well.
I wish I'd known that.
He's a great gentleman as well. Deirdre, we're so happy for you to be here on this edition of Urban Perspectives. Let's get right into it. Mr. Brock, what inspired the creation of the NABJ, and has it been significant in its work?
What inspired the idea of starting a national organization of black journalists was taking a look at the scene. I started in the Virgin Islands. I came up and got a job to do a new show coming on the air called, it was to be called Wide World of Sports. And the ABC, the legal counsel, general counsel of ABC, decided we need to start putting some diversity into our program.
I see.
So he told them that he was sending me over to
get it done.
To get it done.
Yeah.
They fought that, the producers, the writers, fought it all the way to the end. What are you going to do? What if this happens? What if that happens? You know we're going to send you overseas. And they did a great job of trying to discourage me, to make me quit.
Yeah.
And I got an offer from Washington, D.C., and I decided to go home. Washington is my home, and I gave up on working on this new show coming up that was to be called Wide World of Sports. My point is that happened over and over again during the period we're talking about. The Kerner report said that the reason for the riots that were occurring at that time was because of the lack of people of color going into their communities and reporting out.
I see.
And so many words. And that there'll be more riots until they started resolving that problem. Well, in broadcasting, we had the FCC, so it wasn't quite as bad. But at that time, less than 0.1% of the journalists who did not work, of the writers for newspapers who did not write for black newspapers, were working in majority newspapers.
Mainstream.
So was it difficult bringing together those 44 individuals once you helped to spearhead
Very
it?
difficult. You certainly couldn't write a letter and say, come on and we're going to form this organization.
I see.
So what we did, we went to the black political mayors and leaders were coming to Washington for a meeting. So we wrote the letter, come and cover them. We never said a word about forming an organization.
Reverse psychology.
Exactly. And we got a number in, but some of them came in thinking they were going to just cover these half dozen political figures there. When they went to our meeting and found out what we were up to, some of them got scared, some of them didn't sign up. And I mean some of them from progressive organizations, or that we think of as progressive newspapers or broadcast facilities, did not sign up. 44 had the nerve to sign up. 3 or 4 of them regretted it, because when they got home, for instance, our treasurer that we elected, she went home to her, I'm not going to name the network that she was affiliated with, but went home to her station. She was an evening anchor, and she told them that she'd been elected treasurer. And they said, well, what do you want to do? You want to be the treasurer of that organization and work, or work here?
And you made it happen. Deirdre, when this is such an interesting story, when we look at now today, 40 years later,
yes,
what can we expect at this program? As a program chair, what did you do to bring it all together?
Well, you know, we are so blessed that we have our founders who are active, we have former presidents who are active, and we have task forces. Our task forces come together with me, and they put together our sports, our arts and entertainment, our politics. Everybody contributes, and I think that's what makes our convention very unique and very special. It's very much driven by members. So our members are free to propose workshops. We go through a process where we select some of them. Finally, my deputies, Melanie Eversley and Ken Lemon, get together and we kind of make a last go round at it. We try to do things that will really help promote our careers, because that's what's important to us.
We see Mr. Brock here, and I've seen a lot of professionals around the cities. Who are some of the major professionals participating? If we had 2 or 3, you could throw out to us.
Oh my gosh. This morning, Joanne Reed from MSNBC, Wes Lowry of the Washington Post, Stephen A. Smith from ESPN, Jamel Hill. You just met 2 of them. Bob Butler and Rod Hicks are phenomenal. Bob with CBS for many years, Rod Hicks with the Associated Press. And then, of course, your own Reg Chapman of WCCO is there. Public Radio from Minnesota is there. So we bring together what I would consider some of the strongest journalists in the country.
I agree.
Not just black journalists, but major players.
And last, in 10 seconds, we have Mr. Brock. What one thing would you give in terms of encouragement for young people?
The most encouraging thing is that if they don't get with us and work with us and come in to help this, there won't be an NABJ very long.
Mr. Paul Brock, Deirdre Hopkins, thank you so very much for being here with us today on Urban Perspectives.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to just say thank you to our NABJ members who came in to be here with us, the WCCO staff, the Twin Cities Black journalists for their support as well. Thank you, and we'll see you next week on this special edition of Urban Perspectives broadcast here on WCCO.